pleasant morning to all of you. We are the Group 1, and for this presentation, we will be discussing the Module 7 Agrarian Reform Policies. What is agrarian reform? It is concerned with the total development of the farmer's economic, social, and political transformation. It deals with general agricultural practice like introducing crop rotation or mechanization. For a long period of time, the agrarian system in the Philippines was being controlled by the large landlords. The small farmers in the Philippines were struggling for their rights to land and other natural resources. The primary objective of instituting the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program was to successfully devise land reform in the Philippines. Apart from land reform, it supervises allied activities to improve the economic and social status of the beneficiaries of land reform in the Philippines.
Just like what we have learned in our previous lessons about the customs of the Tagalog, we have our own rules and laws before the Spaniards came to our country. Even though you're a servant and not the boss, each of us should have a part of the land. The kainin method was commonly used by some people for land cultivation, but food production is essential only for family consumption. So, sinasabi dito na ang kainin method ay ginagamit pang nourish ng land. Ngunit, pwede lamang ito ma-share sa iyong mga family members at hindi dito nakashare yung mga ibang tao. Sometime later, neighboring communities were engaged in barter trade. Katulad lamang nung nagka-pandemic, 'di ba may mga tao na nagsasabi na ipapalit daw nila yung kanilang mga damit sa pantalon. Parang ganon. When it comes to leasing and selling land, Maragta's Code seems to be the only recorded transaction of the land during this time. This tells us about the selling story of the Panay Island by the native to the Bornean Datus in exchange for a golden salakot or a hat and a long gold necklace. Thus, this land is ours because God gave this land to us. So, kailangan maging good steward tayo sa pagpangalaga ng ating land. The encomienda system was introduced during the colonization of Spaniards. This is a territory that's entrusted to the conquistador. So ano nga ba yung mga conquistador? Sila yung mga leaders na nagmula sa Spain at Portuguese noong 15th at 16th century. They collect taxes, but the harvested crops or labor force can be considered as their payment for the tax. For example, wala silang sapat na pera para ibayad sa tax. Pwede silang kumuha sa kanilang ani or kanilang mga crops para ibayad sa kanilang buwis or tax. At pwede rin silang maging slave or yung tinatawag na labor force. Sa Tagalog, ito ay sa pilitang paggawa. Ginagawa silang slave ng mga tao para ibayad ito sa kanilang tax or buwis. Yung mga sinisingil sa mga lalaki na nag-eedad ng 19 to 60 ay katumbas lang ng 8 reals sa isang taon. Despite being helpful in our society, the encomendero was abusive. Not all of them, but some are disrespecting the rights of people for their properties, particularly in their crops and in the labor force. So, as a result, the people confess what they've experienced to the friars. They hope that this system will stop. So, this system was abolished in the year 1720. The first Philippine president was Emilio Aguinaldo, who established the first Philippine Republic. It was a short-lived republic following the declaration of Philippine independence in 1898. Aguinaldo ruled our country with a dictatorship decree until a democratic constitution was put in place. Alam naman natin na sinakop tayo ng Espanyol sa loob ng 333 years. On September 15, 1898, a revolutionary congress was held at Malolos, Bulacan. Their agenda was to write a democratic constitution for our country. This constitution, also known as Malolos Constitution, or more accurately as La Constitución Política de 1899, became the basic law and established a democratic republic. Happy, right? However, just a month earlier, back on December 10, 1898, the Treaty of Paris, Spain sold the Philippines to the United States. So, akala natin free na tayo sa mga Spaniards, pero binenta pala tayo nila sa United States. In 1902, the US officially declared an end to the Philippine-American War.
American period, Long Live America. Significant legislation enacted during the American period. Philippine Bill of 1902 set the ceilings on the hectarage of private individuals and corporations may acquire. 16 as for private individuals and 1,024 as for corporations. Land Registration Act of 1902, Act No. 496, provided for a comprehensive registration of land titles under the Torrens system. Public Land Act of 1903 introduced the homestead system in the Philippines. Tenancy Act of 1933, Act No. 4054 and 4113, regulated relationships between landowners and tenants of rice, 50/50 sharing, and sugarcane lands. The Torrens system, which the Americans instituted for the registration of lands, did not solve the problem completely. Either they were not aware of the law, or if they did, they could not pay the survey cost and other fees required in applying for a Torrens title.
Commonwealth era. The Philippines Independence Act, also known as the Tidings-McDuffie Law, set aside a 10 years transitional phase in Philippine history from 1935 to 1945 to prepare the country for independence from the United States. Manuel L. Quezon on January 2, 1942, the Japanese invaded the Philippines, ending the Commonwealth era. Manuel L. Quezon and Sergio S. Osmeña, the leaders of the Commonwealth administration, fled to exile in the United States. Osmeña succeeded Quezon as president after the latter passed away from illness while in exile. Jose P. Laurel served as the president of the puppet administration that the Japanese soldiers installed in Manila at the same time. The Second Philippine Republic is the name of this administration. When the Commonwealth was abolished in 1946, the Philippines asserted its complete sovereign right as stated in Article 18 of the 1935 Constitution. Tenant farmers had concerns during the Commonwealth era, frequently stemming from debt brought on by the sharecropping system as well as the sharp rise in population, which put further financial strain on the tenant farmers' family. As a result, the Commonwealth started an agrarian reform initiative.
Japanese occupation, the era of Ukba Lahab. The Second World War II started in Europe in 1939 and in the Pacific in 1941. Ukba Lahab controlled all areas of Central Luzon. Landlords who supported the Japanese lost their lands to peasants, while those who supported the homes earned fixed rentals in favor of the tenants. Unfortunately, the end of war also signaled the end of gains acquired by the peasants. Upon the arrival of the Japanese in the Philippines in 1942, peasants and workers' organizations grew strength. Many peasants took up arms and identified themselves with the anti-Japanese group, the Ukbalahap, unang bayan laban sa Hapon.
Republic of the Philippines. The Republic of the Philippines is a sovereign state in archipelagic Southeast Asia with 7,107 islands spanning more than 300,000 square kilometers territory. It is divided into 3 island groups, the Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. The first Republic Day's history is on January 23, 1899 at the Barasoyan Church in Malolos City, Bulacan. Revolution General Emilio Aguinaldo established the First Philippine Republic, also known as the Malolos Republic. The Philippines were governed by Spain for approximately 300 years. Power is evenly distributed among the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of the Philippines presidential form of government. The Philippines gained the distinction of becoming the first sovereign republic in Asia, thanks to the First Philippine Republic, which was established shortly after the Philippine Revolution against Spain and the Spanish-American War between Spain and the United States.
During Rojas' administration, Republic Act No. 34 was issued under the Agrarian Reform, when he gave this act the name the 70-30 Law. The previous President Rojas made an outstanding job of deal-making. Despite the fact that this nomenclature was widely used, it had a little to do with the Act of Requirements. The 50-50 Law might have been a better title, a bill to one that was less catchy. Unfortunately, the last provision rendered the Act's many excellent provisions meaningless. The law could only take effect in region where the significant proportion of the city council shall, by settlement, seek redress for its implementation to the Governor General, who will make the act effective by proclamation. However, given that properly owner handle municipal council, it should come as no surprise that no province saw the implementation of this law. A large number of tenants who benefited from the act were unable to understand its lengthy, complex, and at times unclear content. The crop sharing clause was hardly groundbreaking. It only gave the existing arrangement its stamp of legal authority. The tenant was entitled to half the crop in exchanging for providing labor force. The necessary tools in sharing production cost with the landlord. Other act provision intended to significantly alter current practice are still in force today. The 23rd of October 1950 saw the release of Executive Order No. 355, Land Settlement Development Corporation had taken over the responsibility of the former National Land Settlement Administration or LASIDECO, where the Agricultural Machinery Equipment Corporation and the Rice and Corn Production Administration duties have been transferred to it. The Land Settlement and Development Corporation is just founded in their place, replacing the Machinery and Equipment Department, Rice and Corn Production Administration, and National Land Settlement Administration of National Development Company, facilitating the purchase, settlement, and development of common land was mentioned in the Act underneath the Quirino Agrarian Reform. With this decree, Quirino wanted to give students of Agrarian College and University, as well as tenant farmers and local farmers, the option to purchase farm outside from crowd areas. Additionally, it was created to generally execute all the powers granted to corporation by corporation law, provided that they do not conflict with the terms of this order. The Land Settlement Development Corporation was founded by Executive Order No. 355 to expedite and broaden the government peasant resettlement program. The scheme did not, however, succeed because of the scarcity of post-warrior resources.
Ramon Magsaysay, also known as Idol of the Masses, ipinanganak noong August 31, 1907, nagsilbi bilang ikapitong presidente ng Republika ng Pilipinas from December 30, 1953 until his death in an aircraft disaster on March 17, 1957. Magsaysay's administration was considered as one of the cleanest and most corruption-free in modern Philippine history. His rule is often cited as the Philippines' golden years. During his time, he enacted the following laws. Number 1. The Republic Act No. 1160 of 1954. He abolished the LASIDECO, also known as Land Settlement and Development Corporation, and he established the National Resettlement and Rehabilitation Administration, also called as NARA. Naglalayong mabigyan ng tahanan at lupang sakahan ang mga rebeldeng nagbalik loob sa gobyerno, partikular sa Palawan at Mindanao. Number 2 is the Republic Act No. 1199, the Agricultural Tenancy Act of 1954. Govern the relationship sa pagitan ng may-ari ng lupa at mga nangungupahan na magsasaka by organizing share tenancy and leasehold system. Ang share tenancy ay isang kasunduan kung saan ang may-ari at nangungupahan sa isang sakahan ay may magkatulad na interes, wherein naghahati sila sa kung ano man ang kita pati na rin kung magkano ang lalugi ng sakahan. Ang leasehold naman ay pagkakaroon ng karapatang humawak ng lupa ang isang nangungupahan sa pamamagitan ng titulo mula sa nagpapaupa o may-ari. Number 3 is Republic Act No. 1400 or the Land Reform Act of 1955, created the Land Tenure Administration or LTA, which was responsible for the acquisition and distribution of large tenanted rice and corn lands over 200 hectares for individuals and 600 hectares for corporation. Last but not the least, Republic Act No. 821, also known as Creation of Agricultural Credit Cooperative Financing Administration. It provided small farmers and share tenants loans with low interest rates of 6 to 8%. Diosdado Macapagal. He was born on September 28, 1910. He is the father of former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. He served as the 9th President of the Republic of the Philippines from 1961 to 1965. He also served as the 6th Vice President from 1957 to 1961. He was considered as the father of Agrarian reform. It was during his term that Agricultural Land Reform Code or RA No. 3844 was enacted on August 8, 1963. This was considered to be the most comprehensive piece of agrarian reform legislation ever enacted in a country that time. This act abolished share tenancy in the Philippines. It prescribed a program converting the tenant farmers to leases and eventually into owner cultivators. It also aimed to free tenants from the bondage of tenancy and gave hope to poor Filipino farmers to own the land they are tilling. It emphasized owner cultivatorship and farmer independence, equity, productivity, improvement, and the public distribution of land.
President Ferdinand Marcos was a 10th Philippine president who served from 1965 to 1986. He was born in Ilocos Norte, Philippines in 1970. He studied law in the late 1930s at the University of the Philippines and became a member of the Philippine Army during World War II. After the war, he served as a member of the Philippines Congress and was elected president in 1965. President Ferdinand Marcos was a strong leader who helped to improve the Philippines during his time in office. He was a controversial figure, but his supporters credit him to modernizing the Philippines and improving its economy. He worked hard to improve the infrastructure and bring new industry to the country, which helped to improve the standard of living for many people. He also helped to improve the relation with other countries, which lead to more trade and investment in the Philippines. Overall, President Marcos was a positive force for change in the Philippines, and his legacy is still felt today. Marcos was declared a martial law in 1972, which allowed him to stay in power longer than the typical president term.
Corazon Aquino. The Constitution ratified by the Filipinos during the administration of President Corazon C. Aquino, provides under the Section 21 under Article 2 that the statement shall promote comprehensive rural development to Agrarian reform. Her full name is Maria Corazon Coango. Pinanganak noong January 25, 1933 sa Tarlac Province. She died in August 1, 2009 at ito'y sa Makati. Philippine political leader who served as the first female president in 1986 to 1992 of the Philippines, restoring democratic rule in that country after the long dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos. Corazon Aquino was born into the wealthy, politically prominent family based in the Tarlac province in north of Manila. She graduated from Mount St. Vincent College in New York City in 1954, but abandoned further studies in 1955 to marry Benigno Simeon Aquino Jr., who was the promising young politician. Corazon remained in the background during her husband's subsequent career, rearing their 5 children at home. Subsequently, 4 presidential were released in July 1897 after 48 nationwide consultation before the actual law was enacted. Executive Order Number 228 in July 16, 1987. Idineklara ang buong pangyayari sa mga kwalipikadong magsasaka, beneficiaryo na sakop sa PD 27. Tinutukoy din nito ang natitirang halaga ng unvalued rice and corns, land subject of PD 27 at ibinigay para sa paraan na pagbabayad ng PBS at modes of compensation sa mga may-ari ng mga lupa. Executive Order Number 229 in July 22, 1987, nagbigay ng mekanismo para sa mga patutupad ng Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program or tinatawag na CARP. Proclamation Number 131 in July 22, 1987. Itinatag ang CARP or Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program bilang isang pangunahing programa na ang gobyerno ay naglaan ito ng espesyal na pondo na kilala bilang Reformang Pansakahan Fund or ito yung tinatawag na ARF. Tapos na may paunahang halaga na 50 billion para masakop ang tinantiang halaga na ang programang mula 1987 to 1992. Executive Order Number 129A in July 26, 1987 ang pinadali na at pinalawak ang kapangyarihan na operasyon ng DAR. Republic Act Number N 6657 in July 10, 1988 at ito yung tinatawag ulit na CARL or Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law. Isang batas na naging epektibo noong Hunyo 15, 1988 at nagpasimula ang isang komprehensibo programa ng reformang agraryo upang itaguyod ang katarungang panlipunan at pagbibigay ng industrialismo ang mekanismo para sa pagpatupad nito para sa iba pang mga layunin. Ang batas na ito ay para rin sa pinatutupad na kasalukuyan. Executive Order Number 405, June 14, 1990. Ito ay nakatalaga sa Land Bank ng Pilipinas ang responsibilidad na tukuyin at pagpapahalaga sa lupa at kabayaran para sa lahat ng lupain ng sakop ng CARP. Last but not the least is the Executive Order Number 407, June 14, 1990. Pinabilis ang pagkuha at pamamahagi ng mga lupang agricultural, pastulan at paglaisdan or yung forestry lands ng ibang mga lupain ng pampubliko, domain ng angkop para sa agrikultura.
President Fidel V. Ramos' government had to deal with losing public faith in the Agrarian Reform Program when he officially entered office in 1992. His administration vowed to carry out the Agrarian Reform Program in a fair, quick, and meaningful manner. Ramos' administration centered on reforms that aimed to address the issues that the Philippines continued to experience in the years after the Marcos dictatorship. The Ramos administration is recognized for bringing back the support of key stakeholders in CARP by bridging certain policy gaps on land acquisition and distribution, land valuation, and case resolution. It is also credited with enhancing internal operating systems and strengthening the capabilities of the DAR bureaucracy. This administration is also credited for tapping more resources to help implement the program. So, yung CARP po is the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, while DAR is Department of Agrarian Reform. It became a problem for this government when some farmer beneficiaries' installation on the granted property were not enforced. Not physical installation of FDs, according to critics, has been the norm rather than the exception. So, some sectors also complained about the slowness of this administration in the acquisition and distribution of privately owned lands. Although this administration was credited with having the most significant accomplishment in terms of LAD. Critics says this is because the land acquired and distributed was more on public lands in rice and corn lands. So here are the laws that was enacted and signed by President Fidel V. Ramos. We have the Republic Act number 7881 of 1995, Republic Act number 7905 of 1995, Executive Order number 363 of 1997, Republic Act number 8435, and Republic Act 8532 of 1998. Now let's just proceed to the first law, which is the Republic Act number 7881, an act amending certain provisions of Republic Act number 6657, entitled an act instituting a comprehensive agrarian reform program to promote social justice and industrialization, providing the mechanism for its implementation and for other purposes. So it amended certain provisions of RA 6657 and exempted fish ponds and prawns from the coverage of CARP. The primary act has been modified with regard to its scope of application, forced land acquisition, yung mga paggamit ng lupang pang-agrikultura para sa mga fish pond at prawn farms, ang pangangalaga sa mga ekosistema ng bakawan at mga pagbabago sa pananim. So that second one is the Republic Act number 7905, an act to strengthen the implementation of the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program and for other purposes. So it strengthened the implementation of CARP or yung Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program. So, ayon daw sa batas na ito, ang mga kasunod na serbisyo ay ipinagkakaloob sa mga magsasaka na benepisyaryo ng programa at sa mga apektadong may-ari ng lupa ng tanggapan bilang pangkahalatang suporta at serbisyo ng koordinasyon para sa pagpapatupad ng programang ito. Proceed to the Executive Order number 363 of 1997, which providing the guidelines on the allocation and release of the 1996 Poverty Alleviation Fund. This include limits the type of lands that may be converted by setting condition under which limits the type of lands that may be converted by setting conditions under which specific categories of agricultural land are either absolutely non-negotiable for conversion or highly restricted for conversion. So Ramos administration has made reducing poverty one of its top priorities, and in order to concentrate efforts on it, they chose 20 priority provinces bilang mga initial na target upang sila ay pare-parehong makapag-ambag at makakuha mula sa pagpapalawak ng ekonomiya ng bansa. Sa liwanag ng pangkahalatang mataas na saklaw ng kahirapan sa Mindanao at ang estratehiyang pangkapayapaan at pagpunlad ng administrasyong ito, ang focus na mahigpit ng mga hakbang sa pagsukpo ng kahirapan ay pinalawak upang saklawin ang Mindanao, lalo na ang Autonomous Region for Muslim Mindanao o yung ARMM. Now, we have Republic Act number 8435 of 1997, the Agriculture and Fisheries Modernization Act of 1997 or yung AFMA. With the help of this law, ang mga magsasaka at mangingisda ay nasa isang mahusay na posisyon upang matugunan ang mga pangangailangan ng pagpapalawak ng domestic at international na mga market sa pamamagitan ng pagtaas ng kanilang output. The strategy's objective is to transform the agriculture and fishing sectors into cutting-edge, competitive ones that are built on provisions para sa mga serbisyong sumusuporta sa production at marketing, human resource development, research development at extension, rural non-farm employment, trade at fiscal incentives, at pangkahalatang mga probisyon. Now we have the last Republic Act, which is the Republic Act 8532 of 1998, an act strengthening further the comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program by providing augmentation fund, therefore amending for the purpose Section 63 of Republic Act number 6657, otherwise known as the CARP Law of 1998. So, this is the Agrarian Reform Fund Bill, yung nagbigay ng karagdagang 50 billion pesos para sa CARP at they extended its implementation for another 10 years. So that is all for the contribution of President Fidel V. Ramos to the Agrarian reform. It became a problem for this government when some farmer beneficiaries' installation on the granted property were not enforced. Not physical installation of FDs, according to critics, has been the norm rather than the exception. So, some sectors also complained about the slowness of this administration in the acquisition and distribution of privately owned lands. Although this administration was credited with having the most significant accomplishment in terms of LAD. Critics says this is because the land acquired and distributed was more on public lands and rice and corn lands. So here are the laws that was enacted and signed by President Fidel V. Ramos. We have the Republic Act number 7881 of 1995, Republic Act number 7905 of 1995, Executive Order number 363 of 1997, Republic Act number 8435, and Republic Act 8532 of 1998. Now let's just proceed to the first law, which is the Republic Act number 7881 an act amending certain provisions of Republic Act Number 6657, entitled An Act Instituting a Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program to Promote Social Justice and Industrialization, providing the mechanism for its implementation and for other purposes. So it amended certain provisions of RA 6657 and exempted fish ponds and prawns from the coverage of CARP. The primary act has been modified with regard to its scope of application, forced land acquisition, yung mga paggamit ng lupang pang-agrikultura para sa mga fish pond at prawn farms, ang pangangalaga sa mga ekosistema ng bakawan at mga pagbabago sa pananim. So that second one is the Republic Act Number 7905, an act to strengthen the implementation of the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program and for other purposes. So it strengthened the implementation of CARP or yung Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program. So, ayon daw sa batas na ito, ang mga kasunod na serbisyo ay ipinagkakaloob sa mga magsasaka na benepisyaryo ng programa at sa mga apektadong may-ari ng lupa ng tanggapan bilang pangkahalatang suporta at serbisyo ng koordinasyon para sa pagpapatupad ng programang ito. Let's proceed to the Executive Order Number 363 of 1997, which providing the guidelines on the allocation and release of the 1996 Poverty Alleviation Fund. This include limits the type of lands that may be converted by setting condition under which limits the type of lands that may be converted by setting conditions under which specific categories of agricultural land are either absolutely non-negotiable for conversion or highly restricted for conversion. So Ramos administration has made reducing poverty one of its top priorities, and in order to concentrate efforts on it, they chose 20 priority provinces bilang mga inisyal na target upang sila ay pare-parehong makapag-ambag at makakuha mula sa pagpapalawak ng ekonomiya ng bansa. Sa liwanag ng pangkahalatang mataas na saklaw ng kahirapan sa Mindanao at ang estratehiyang pangkapayapaan at pagkunlad ng administrasyong ito, ang focus na mahigpit ng mga hakbang sa pagsukpo ng kahirapan ay pinalawak upang saklawin ang Mindanao, lalo na ang Autonomous Region for Muslim Mindanao o yung ARMM. Now, we have Republic Act Number 8435 of 1997, the Agriculture and Fisheries Modernization Act of 1997 or yung AFMA. With the help of this law, ang mga magsasaka at nangingisda ay nasa isang mahusay na posisyon upang matugunan ang mga pangangailangan ng pagpapalawak ng domestic at international na mga market sa pamamagitan ng pagtaas ng kanilang output. The strategy's objective is to transform the agriculture and fishing sectors into cutting-edge, competitive ones that are built on provisions para sa mga serbisyong sumusuporta sa production at marketing, human resource development, research development at extension, rural non-farm employment, trade at fiscal incentives, at pangkahalatang mga probisyon. Now we have the last Republic Act, which is the Republic Act 8532 of 1998, an act strengthening further the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program by providing augmentation fund, therefore amending for the purpose Section 63 of Republic Act Number 6657, otherwise known as the CARP Law of 1998. So, this is the Agrarian Reform Fund Bill, yung nagbigay ng karagdagang 50 billion pesos para sa CARP at they extended its implementation for another 10 years. So that is all for the contribution of President Ray Ramos to the Agrarian reform.
The former Philippine President Joseph Ejercito Estrada was elected on May 11, 1998, receiving almost 11 million votes with his famous slogan, "Era para sa mahirap," that endeared the people of the Philippines. Joseph Estrada initiated the enactment of Executive Order No. 151 or the Farmers Trust Fund, which allowed the voluntary consolidation of small farm operation into medium and large-scale integrated enterprise that can access long-term capital. The main goal of this law is poverty eradication in our country, food security, and global competitiveness. During his administration, President Estrada launched the Magkabalikat para sa Kaunlarang Agraryo or Magkasaka. The DAR forged into joint ventures with private investors into agrarian sector to make FPIs competitive. Its main concept is to bring the capital, technology, and management support from the private investors. The program shall enable the farmers to be more efficient and competitive globally. However, the Estrada administration was short-lived. The masses who put him into office demanded for his ouster. The Estrada's presidency didn't last its full term and he was resigned in his office in 2001.
President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, 2000 to 2010. The Agrarian Reform Program under the Arroyo administration is about promoting social justice and new economic opportunities towards lasting peace and sustainable development in countryside. Ang programang reformang agraryo sa ilalim ng administrasyon ng Arroyo ay patungkol sa pagtataguyod ng panlipunan, katarungan at mga panibagong pagkakataong ekonomiya tungo sa pangmatagalang kapayapaan at napapanatiling pag-unlad ng Land Tenure Improvement, ang DAR ay sistema sa pagpapatibay ng mga may-ari ng lupa. Ang CARP ay hindi lamang nasasangkot sa pamamahagi ng lupain ngunit kasama rin ang paketeng mga serbisyo o pangsuporta sa kinabibilangan tulad ng tulay o kalsada.
Now let's tackle the reform program under President Benigno Simeon Coaca Aquino III. Si Benigno Simeon Aquino III ay pinanganak noong February 8, 1960 at namatay noong June 24, 2021. He also known as Noynoy Aquino and colloquially as Pinoy, was a Filipino politician who served as the 15th President of the Philippines from 2010 to 2016. The son of assassinated politician Benigno Aquino Jr. and 11th President Corazon Aquino, he was a fourth-generation politician as part of the Aquino family of Tarlac. Benigno Aquino III previously served as a member of the House of Representatives and Senate from 1998 to 2010, and also as a Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives from 2004 to 2006. Pagkatapos ng kamatayan ng kanyang inang si Corazon Aquino noong August 1, 2009, maraming mga tao ang tumawag kay Noynoy upang tumakbo sa halalan ng pagkapangulo, kabilang ang Noynoy Aquino for President Movement or NAPM na kampanya sa buong bansa upang lumikom ng 1 million signature upang hikayatin si Aquino na tumakbo sa halalan ng pagkapangulo. His presidency starts 2010 to 2016. The primary reform he established is CARPER, which is the continuation of the CARP started by Gloria Macapagal Arroyo but has an expiration date on 2009. Aquino continued this reform but he added something which is turned into CARPER extension to reform a free form, but it is also amends other provisions started in CARP. So jointly with the farmers, all the bishops, and all land reform advocates develop a plan of action for the implementation of the comprehensive land reform. Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program Extension with reforms, or CARPOR is the mandatory law that extends again the deadline of distributing agricultural land of farmers for 5 years. It is also amongst others provisions stated in CARP. The Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, commonly known as CARP, is an agrarian reform law of the Philippines whose legal basis is the Republic Act No. 6657, otherwise known as the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law, CARL. It is the transfer of private and public agricultural lands in order to assist recipients in surviving as small independent farmers regardless of the tenural structure. Its objectives are to give landowners with equal income and opportunity, to enable landowner beneficiaries to have equitable land ownership, to increase agricultural output and productivity, to employ more agricultural employees, and to resolve land ownership conflicts. The main points of the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program is sought to redistribute land not only to farmers and farm workers but also to landlords. Guided by the principle of social justice, it recognized the right of landowners to just compensation and provided a retention limit of 5 hectares. The Department of Agrarian Reform, or DAR, has formulated a program to further enhance the agricultural capability of our country, thereby helping our economy to be at its peak. The Agrarian Reform Community Connectivity and Economic Support Services, known as RSS, is a breakthrough project developed by DAR to ensure the agricultural productivity in crops and other products. It is a program intended to achieve economies of scale in agricultural production by organizing the important facets of land preparation, harvesting, logistics, and land marketing in order to reduce the cost of inputs, improve production efficiencies, and increase productivity and income of agrarian reform beneficiaries, or ARB. It considered the capacity, capital, and equipment requirements of different crops and commodities such as rice, corn, sugar, coconut, banana, cassava, fruit, trees, and high-yielding crops. Through this program, the Department of Agrarian Reform will give support to farmers during the production, post-harvest, storage, processing, and marketing. The Agrarian Production Credit Program, or APCP, is a joint credit and capacity development project of the Department of Agrarian Reform and Land Bank of the Philippines aimed at providing credits assistance to farmer organizations and ARBs who are not yet qualified to avail of LDP's financing program. The Coangos managed to change several clauses in the agreement to help them retain control of the land up until 2012. Nangako siya sa publiko na kukumplituhin at itutuloy niya ang pagpapastupad ng programang CARP. Kaya maraming taong bumoto sa kanya. Hindi lamang ang mga farmers, kundi pati na rin ang mga taong umaasa magkakaroon sila ng lupain. Noynoy Aquino said at the kick-off of his presidential campaign that Hacienda Luisita's land would be distributed to farm workers by 2014. Through his campaign with promises, ay maraming tao ang naniwala sa kanya, especially the farmers, ngunit ang Hacienda Luisita ay hindi kailanman na-distribute sa kahit sinong tao. Sa kampanya ni Noynoy Aquino para sa halalan ng pagkapangulo noong Pebrero 2010, kanyang ipinangako ang pamamahagi ng lupain ng Hacienda Luisita sa mga manggagawa sa taong 2014. Noong Agosto 6, 2010, ang HLI at mga paksyon ng mga pangkat ng magsasaka ay lumagdan sa kasunduang kompromiso na nagbibigay sa mga magsasaka ng pagkakataong manatiling stockholder ng HLI o tumanggap ng bahaging lupain ng Hacienda Luisita. Maraming bumotong manatiling stockholder at tumanggap ng salapi, ngunit nagrereklamo ang kanilang nakuha ay maliit na halaga. Hiniling ng HLI sa kataas-taasang hukuman na pagtibayin ang kasunduang kompromiso. Ang isang paksyon ng mga pangkat ng magsasaka ay humiling sa kataas-taasang hukuman na ibasura ang nakasundo ang kompromiso dahil ito ay niladaan bago pa magpasya ang hukuman sa balidad ng opsyong stock ng Hacienda Luisita. Noong Hulyo 5, 2011, proaktibay ng kataas-taasang hukuman ang resolusyong ng PARC na nagbabawi ng opsyong stock ng Hacienda Luisita. Inutos ng kataas-taasang hukuman sa DAR na magsagawa ng isang referendum kung saan ang mga manggagawa ay makakaboto kung nais nilang manatiling stockholder ng HLI o tumanggap ng lupain. Executive Order Number 26 Series of 2011 or the National Blooming Program. President Benigno S. Aquino III issued Executive Order or EO 26 on February 24, 2011, designating the National Blooming Program's implementation as a government priority program to combat poverty, advance food security, preserve the environment and biodiversity, and improve climate change mitigation and adaptation. As a result, it is a more comprehensive program meant to achieve other significant national objectives as well as reforestation.
President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, 2016 to 2022. Under his leadership, the President wants to pursue an aggressive land reform program that would help alleviate the life of poor Filipino farmers by prioritizing the provision of support services alongside land distribution. The President directed the DAR to launch the second phase of agrarian reform where landless farmers would be awarded with undistributed lands under the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program or CARP. Duterte plans to place almost all public lands, including military reserves, under agrarian reform. The President also placed 400 hectares of agricultural lands in Boracay under CARP. Under his administration, the DAR created an anti-corruption task force to investigate and handle reports on alleged anomalous activities by officials and employees of the department. The department also pursues an Upland Zero backlog and the resolution of cases in relation of Agrarian Justice deliver of the Agrarian Reform Program to fast-track the implementation of CARP.